Welcome back, everybody, I have some great and exciting videos for you today. I hope you like them. Hit that like button, share, comment, subscribe, and let's do it.
Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here.
Yo, that junk is flat.
No way.
The Matrix is real.
May have been misidentified as protrusions.
Reptilians.
Ever heard of the underground Egyptian city in the Grand Canyon? Hidden within its vast expanse lies a secret carefully concealed from the pages of history. This is a tale of mystery, ancient civilizations, and cover-ups. Let's travel back to the early 20th century. An archaeologist named Mr. G.E. Kincaid from the Smithsonian Institution embarked on a journey that would lead him to an astonishing discovery. Setting off from Green River, Utah, Kincaid and his companion embarked on an expedition down the Colorado River, documenting the unexplored terrain. It was on April 5, 1909, that the Arizona Gazette published an extraordinary article that spoke of Kincaid's findings, a lost subterranean Egyptian city buried within the Grand Canyon. Yet, after this revelation, the story vanished into thin air, leaving us to wonder why. For more than 8 years, Kincaid dedicated his life to investigating this hidden city. The Smithsonian supported his quest, and he meticulously pieced together information that challenged conventional history. He described finding several passages branching out across these caves, leading to hundreds of chambers deep within the earth. These chambers held astonishing artifacts, including objects as hard as steel and tools that showcased a level of craftsmanship unparalleled by the era's standards. Kincaid's findings hinted at a civilization of Oriental origin, raising questions about a possible connection between Asia and the Grand Canyon. The mystery deepened as hieroglyphic tablets were discovered, suggesting ties to Egypt and the American Southwest. The Smithsonian's efforts led to extensive research, revealing vast chambers adorned with intricate artwork and even mummies preserved for centuries. However, this research was swiftly terminated, as access to this underground marvel was on government land. It's possible that the government preferred to keep this information from the public, altering our understanding of history. Today, we stand at a crossroads of history and mystery, leaving us to wonder about the significance of this subterranean civilization and its potential connection to Egypt and Asia.
They don't want you to know the truth. The Grand Canyon is most likely part of Egypt, and where we think Egypt is a replica. That was the real Egypt over there, connecting to the land of Judah and Israel, the promised land, which is over here. Let's keep going.
There are ancient Egyptian tombs inside the Grand Canyon.
Ancient Egyptian tombs inside the Grand Canyon? That's what an explorer found right before the government closed the area off from the public. Way back in 1909, the Arizona Gazette reported a story of a miner, G.E. Kincaid, looking for gold in the Grand Canyon. While journeying down the river, he came across what looked like steps carved into the canyon side, so he decides to check it out. The steps, he claimed, were perfectly carved, not a natural formation, and as he approached the top, he came across a man-made cave entrance, which do exist all around the Grand Canyon, but this one was different. He went inside, turned on his light, and saw tunnels chiseled with perfect architecture and more branching paths deeper inside. He kept going until he comes across an enormous room several hundred feet long. In the middle stood a giant statue of what looked like Buddha, holding lotus flowers in each hand. Now, Buddha has nothing to do with ancient Egypt, which actually makes this more of a mind trip, but we're getting there, I promise. This looks like it was an ancient underground city, which actually exists all around the world in places like Derinkuyu in Turkey. Kincaid was amped. This got to be the discovery of the century, so of course he leaves and asks for funding to explore more from the Smithsonian, the world-leading museum research and education institute, the gatekeeper of archaeological findings, made by the U.S. government, who gladly agreed. They sent a team of scientists and miners led by S.A. Jordan to fully excavate this mind-blowing discovery. With this team backing the expedition, Kincaid goes back to the caves and realized he barely scratched the surface. He left extremely detailed journal entries describing the whole excavation, with hallways up to 12 feet wide and large oval doorways throughout the underground complex. During this excavation, they find full-size rooms which appear to have been made for dining, winding halls with detailed architecture, and artifacts like pottery, urns, and to their surprise, copper tools and swords, along with rooms built for metalwork. All signs of an ancient civilization far more advanced than what should have been here at the time. But then they find this: Egyptian hieroglyphs carved and painted on the walls, and stone tablets with similar hieroglyphs engraved. And then finally, what appeared to be a crypt, filled with little cubby holes in the walls, each containing mummies of giant humanoids, some even being reported as reptilian looking. Yeah, Egyptian tombs in the Grand Canyon. They call this complex the Citadel, and by the end of their expedition, hundreds of rooms were discovered, estimated to house up to 50,000 people. They determined that, of course, this must be the remains of an advanced civilization that were here before the natives, and somehow brought the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians from the other side of the world into the Americas. G.E. Kincaid and S.A. Jordan presented their Egyptian hypothesis to the Smithsonian, who obviously did not like the sound of that and denied further excavation. Egyptian hieroglyphs spotted outside of Egypt? Absolute nonsense, right? Maybe, but this isn't the only time that such a claim was made, like the Gosford hieroglyphs carved into rock in Australia, which look almost identical to that of the Egyptians. It's hard to tell exactly how old they are, but of course they're labeled a hoax. Someone else carved them here a few years ago to trick the world. Or the written language of the Mi'kmaq, a Native American tribe that lived along the Atlantic coast, which shares a baffling number of similarities with Egyptian hieroglyphs, two cultures that allegedly had no contact among each other. This one was just a coincidence, of course, just like the Fuente Magna bowl found in Bolivia with Proto-Sumerian cuneiform script writing on it. That's ancient Mesopotamian writing uncovered in South America. So artifacts of ancient Middle Eastern civilizations found in the Americas have happened, but we just ignore them. To this day, the Smithsonian denies this expedition in the Grand Canyon ever happened. And the stories of the explorers are of course deemed a hoax. So is any of this real? The native indigenous people seem to think so. Native American tribes like the Navajo, Zuni, Acoma Pueblo have legends of a race that existed there before them, even citing the Grand Canyon specifically as the place where the first people emerged from. These myths all speak of either a race of reptilians, yes, we're in lizard people territory now, or giants that civilized the area, building underground cities to protect themselves. The Hopi tribe even have a story about a sky god who, after a series of cataclysms, emerged from a moving star and took the tribe to underground caves in the Grand Canyon region to protect them. The Havasupai people believe the canyon is the home of the Supai, the spirit of their ancestors. The Paiute culture got the legend of the Havmusuks, who also lived in an underground city and had silver tubes that shot lightning that could end a man's life, and silver canoes in the sky, which all line up perfectly with the flood myths, not to mention UFO sightings, around the world where godlike beings descend from the sky and gift civilization to humanity. And it's exactly why the Smithsonian cringes at the thought of admitting to this, because it would imply that cultures like the ancient Egyptians had overseas contact with the Americas, completely destroyed.
I think it's not like that at all. I think over here is where ancient Egypt was over here in the United States, along with Judah and Israel, and this is the promised land. But to keep all that hidden from you, they put it all over in the Middle East. So they did replicas. They named their rivers, the rivers that were named over here, like the Euphrates and all these things. The Red Sea, there's a Red Sea here over by California. There's a Red Sea over there. So if you look at it that way, it's to once again hide your history from you, where you really come from, and it's to take away that the Bible is real, stuff like that.
Across this massive cliff overlooking Monument Valley. It was when I started looking for campsites on the edge of this cliff that I noticed something odd. The cliffside was not a straight line, as you would expect. It looked more like a giant zigzag. Look at that. And then I zoomed in, and suddenly, I know that's what's got here is composed of hundreds, maybe even thousands, of massive, geometrically perfect cubes and rectangles. What is going on here? Piqued my interest. It got me thinking, is it possible for a perfect cube to exist in nature? Well, I guess it is, but not hundreds of them. What would it look like when one of these comes crashing down? Oh my gosh. What else is there to find here? Look at that. These are perfect square-shaped rocks. There's a moment where he ventures and starts walking among them, and he actually comes across some hieroglyphs, or at least, here you go, I think this is it. Look at that. You can see there's several humanoid drawings. What's going on here? One right here. And right there. Yeah. And the craziest thing is that they're located right on the edge of this amazing view. Well, that's an amazing view indeed. Now, let me just check this out. That is a square rock. I mean, that's perfect. Look at that. What the heck?
Is the original Jerusalem.
Utah, Mount Pisgah, Utah, Jericho, Utah, South Gilead Way, Utah, Ephraim, Utah, Daniel, Utah, Dan is short for Daniel, Nephi, Utah, short for Naphtali, Moab, Utah, Eden, Utah, Goshen, Utah, Jordan, Salt Lake, Mount Carmel Junction, Utah, North Eden Canyon, Utah, Zion Canyon, Utah, Zion National Park, Utah, Benjamin, Utah, Enoch, Utah, Joseph, Utah, Navan, Utah, Providence, Utah, Salem, Utah, Salem, Jerusalem, Utah, nicknamed Beehive State. There is a mountain in eastern Nevada named Mount Moriah, and it is over 12,000 feet high in Utah. Not only is there a river Jordan, but it runs out of a freshwater lake and into the Great Salt Lake, which is remarkably like the Dead Sea. There is also a Mount Nebo, F-D-N-E-B-O, in Utah, approximately 12,000 feet high. So yes, with evidence this strong, the red Judah was in Utah. People try to say that it was the Mormons that gave these places in Utah biblical names to support their position as Jews. However, this explanation fails miserably, because there are no 12,000 feet high mountains in modern day Israel. So it says the lion is the symbol of the tribe of Judah. It is often represented in sculptures outside of a synagogue. That means this sculpture is sitting outside of a Judah synagogue. And this is New York City's public library with Judah lions outside the front of it, because the tribe of Judah was in New York State, and this is one of their synagogues. You see this other lion that's in New York City? This is on the police building in New York City. This is a giant temple, okay, that's in Jerusalem. The United States East Coast is home of the tribe of Judah. Here's two more lions sitting outside of another synagogue. You see the star in the middle? That's the star, Remphan. Okay, the tabernacle of Moloch that David and Solomon took. Okay, Solomon was from the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah appointed all the Levites in the synagogues, and all the Levites left their homelands to rule in Judah. This synagogue in Albany says Bethel Jacob on the front of it. Right above it, there's Hebrew. Jacob was the father of Levi. Asher, who ruled in Judah, Asher Levi, they redid his name, was the first Levite to settle in America, in Albany, New York, because he was appointed at this synagogue by Solomon, or Solomon's son, and he came here during one of the merchant trade routes on one of the merchant ships. Right? This is the article, A Brief History of Albany's Earliest Jewish Congregations. It says Jews were among the earliest settlers in Albany, New York. This is the temple of Bethlehem Jacob. Jacob was the father of Levi, who left his homeland to be appointed at this synagogue in Albany. Right here it says Asher reigns in Judah. That's Asher Levi. They changed his name to Asher instead of Asher. So this is the article on Asher Levi coming to America. He said that he was on a boat with a man named Jacob Bar Simon. That would have been Jacob Bar Simon, his father, Jacob, the father of Levi, and Solomon Peterson. That would have been King Solomon. And it says Bar Simon and Peterson right here because Peterson is the son of Peter. Bar Simon gave a speech later in Scripture in the same exact area. It says right here, Peter speaks in Solomon's portico. He was in the same area as King Solomon.
which is why you have St. Peter's Church in Troy, which is one of the Templars' bricked over fortified buildings. Right here again, St. Peter's, Troy. There's a giant hospital named St. Peter's over in this area. Right? The health manufacturer company that they have. This is a giant Templar brick building that got converted into a hospital. It was a healing center. Asher would also be the tribe of Asher that came over on that merchant ship. It was the tribe of Asher and the tribe of Levi. This is literally the ship that they came over on, the St. Catherine ship. This is an old Knights Templar ship. All right, Solomon, it was the Knights Templar, were the Order of Solomon. They brought all these Levites here to America during one of the merchant routes every 3 years. Merchant ships came every 3 years, bringing gold, silver, ivory, etc. It says King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth, riches and wisdom. Right here, it says he had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, 12,000 horsemen who he stationed in the chariot cities with the king at Jerusalem. That's the start of your Knights Templar and the Order of Solomon. It says right here, they brought horses from Egypt. Okay, that's the west coast of America. Horses are only native to North America. And that's why you have Schenectady Civics players with the Knights Templar symbol right here. That's going to be your 33-degree Knights Mason right here. On the other side, that's your Freemason. This is one of the Templar forts that got fortified in Chronicles, okay, because they were in America. Right here in Chronicles says all the priests and Levites moved to Judah. They left their homelands, okay, left all their possessions and came to Judah and Jerusalem, which would have been New York State, which is why you have the Judah Lions on the Rensselaer County building over in Troy, why you have the Judah Lions on Proctor's Theater in Troy, and all the houses of David right here, all their shields and crests, those are their family houses right here. And this is another structure in Troy that got filled in. This was all wide open right here. You'd be able to walk through all the way at the top of this building. You can see there's Judah Lions at the top. They're also going to be above all the doorways and archways into this building. Right here again, they installed this doorway right here. This was a wide open arch, just like in New York City. Those are giant door knockers right there that were built by your Nephilim because Solomon had demons and Nephilim at his command. This is the Eliam building. The window has a sign in it that says Morning Star Center. And these are all the wide open arches in New York City. This says Manhattan right here. This is all the home of Judah. Here's another Capitol building, the State Education Building in Albany. You see all these Corinthian pillars. I'm going to show you where the Greeks and Romans got these from. Because that's a Greek or Roman, it's hard to tell. Woman right here designing a Corinthian pillar. You see that she has that compass in her hand right there. That's a Freemasonry tool right there, using the geometry. She got this from Solomon because all of the Roman emperors were seen as the Egyptian pharaohs in Egypt. It says right here the Roman emperors were considered to be pharaohs in the Roman period. And Solomon married the queen of Egypt. Solomon was the first Freemason to build, they say, but Nimrod really was. But either way, they learned all this from Solomon, being married to the queen of Egypt. All this Roman concrete that they lost the formula to and they don't know how to remake, that got burned in the Library of Alexandria, that had to do with the Queen Sheba, okay, and Solomon being married to her. This is Solomon's concrete. This isn't Roman concrete right here. Solomon made this using alchemy and demons. And if you're still not convinced that New York State is the home to the tribe of Judah, this is right on 23rd Street. This is Hebrew right here with the 10 Commandments and the 2 lions from the tribe of Judah. That's on one of these giant synagogues. It said that these lions represent the tribe of Judah in a synagogue. Here's another synagogue on the west side. This is in New York City. It has the same lions at the top with the 10 Commandments. Right here, the Lion of Judah on an emblem of Jerusalem. I just showed you all the structures in New York City and linked it to the scripture and showed you the boat they came over on. The word Tartarian is not even in the Bible. The only thing remotely close is Tartarus, which is the pagan underworld.
Did you know that outside of Israel, Brooklyn has the largest Orthodox Jewish population? And for the summertime, everybody empties out and moves upstate.
This is a synagogue, a Jewish prayer house, also known as a shul.
All throughout upstate New York, there are little bungalow colonies like these that Jewish communities move up to.
We are visiting Monticello in upstate New York, but to the Orthodox Hasidic community, it's known as the country. And I'm having so much fun, I lost my voice. This is a Jewish overnight campground. There are so many in this area. And it's not uncommon to see a Hatzalah ambulance. This is a Jewish volunteer ambulance company. And if you ever heard of Woodstock, yes, that's right up here also. This restaurant was so busy, every table was taken. But that's just for the summertime. As summer turns to fall, this entire area will become a ghost town. Follow along to learn more about my community and culture.
Shame on you! Israeli government! Shame on you! Israeli government! Shame on you!
JerUSAlem. In prophecy, America is the true Jerusalem. Amorica. America was ran by the Moors for a long time. Remember that camels are native to North America. Remember that corn is native. The maize equals the maize, the corn. America is the native progenitor of corn. And corn equals what Joseph was able to basically store up during that time. Wouldn't destroy a man over some corn now, would you? Remember, America has received the blessing of the cattle and the blessing of the corn, the blessing of the fields, more than any other country. America is an extension of Manasseh. And America was given the blessing of Manasseh and Ephraim, basically. King Manasseh was one of the worst kings Israel ever had. Right now, Manasseh equals America, and and the presidents and everything about America equals the worst country to have ever existed. When I say that, I mean that America has taken advantage of its own people and the people outside of America more than any other country ever to have existed. You thought that the Greek Roman times were bad. Well, how about what America is doing to the Middle East? These people were promised this land, but what does America do? No, you don't get that birthright. And we're going to go ahead and change and remove times and laws because we're working unanimously with the synagogues of Satan. And remember, the people who call themselves Israel, they are not the real Israel. And the book of Revelation was telling us the entire time, can a nation be founded in a day? No. Remember that America and Britain, they go hand in hand and they line up perfectly with prophecy. And remember that the 10 lost tribes equals basically you and I. Judah does not equal all of Israel. Judah is where we get the term JEW. But what about the other 10 or 11 tribes, which really equals the 10 or the 11 other nations, because tribe is not a true translation or interpretation of what the text was originally saying. This is also why the context equals American, Jamaican, Mexican, Puerto Rican, African, because Khan equals priest slash king slash ruler. The world used to be under this united kingdom of Khans. We all used to work together. King Solomon's trading routes were very real, and they went from one end of the earth all the way to the other. This is why understanding our heritage, like Brit equals covenant, and then Ish equals man. British equals covenant man or covenant people. And this is the United Kingdom of what is real that they don't want you to know about. And this is actually one of the highest Masonic secrets that exist or existed up until a few years ago when people started to catch wind of how they removed, and they changed times, laws, and history. And that's why we made y'all the Health Bible. Con, go ahead and learn everything you need to know at jacobslink.com, or just grab the Health Bible instead.
The United States of America, and we really deeply have to understand and remember and accept that the more we move forward on our criticisms of the nation of Israel, that is a false nation that was first also recognized only by the United States of America. That country is a tool, is a political pawn for geopolitical warfare. The illegitimate state of Israel is under the guise of safety for Jews, but realistically, it's just preying on the vulnerability of an already vulnerable group of people. The US benefits from that country being there because they need to destabilize the region, surveil the region, have access to resources, and that was the only way they were ever going to be able to do it. So when we criticize Israel and want to take it down, remember that you need to take down the US as well, because everything they do also represents the United States of America.
They don't like cameras in here, so we're going to stay on the side streets. They got 2 Judah lions sitting right there on each side. 1, 2. There's a bronze knight. Rehoboam fortifies the cities. King Rehoboam made bronze shields in their place and committed them to the hands of the captains of the guard who guarded the doorway of the king's house. So what's this bronze Judah lion doing up here in this fortified structure with, see the bronze armor on the left? The knight stationed in the captain's guard in the king's doorway. There's armor in the fortified building. Rehoboam reigns in Judah. Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. That's why on the inside of this building, right, the Order of Solomon, the Knights Templar. That's why those are in there. This building was built by the Knights Templar. They brought all the Christian pilgrims supposedly to the Holy Land. King Rehoboam made bronze shields in their place and committed them to the hands of the captains of the guard who guarded the doorway of the house. That's in Kings. That's a bronze knight up there, bronze armor on the left of that doorway right there with 2 Judah lions in front of the king's doorway. When Rehoboam fortified the cities, this is a fort. Fortification of the city. It's up there. You see the bronze statue? That's right up there. Right up there. Those are the 2 Judah lions. See the Judah lions, 1, 2, with the bronze armor in there from Rehoboam, Solomon's son. Order of Solomon was the Knights Templar. Why would this be in this castle right here with the lion on the shield symbolizing the tribe of Judah? Why would they have a whole hall with Judah lions on the altars right here? That knight helmet on the left is the same crest that's over Portugal at the Star Fort. Kings and Chronicles, all the Levites came to Jerusalem to serve in the synagogues. That's because they got brought over here by the Knights Templar. It was the Order of Solomon. And then what they tell you in our history is that the Knights Templar brought all the Christian pilgrims to the Holy Land. I'll show you the floor pattern in here too. That's the floor pattern inside the building. So somebody's got some explaining to do about this structure. JFK was at it. You see how this is the ground level? All this got filled in. Probably sits the base of it, at least right here with this road. There, it's up like this as part of a star point, and that's part of the corner point to a star fort, and they just covered it up. Judah Lion, Judah Lion. This is all Templar brick. The Knights Templar, Order of Solomon. That's the same brick. They even got the fleur-de-lis up there for an antenna. I guarantee you the 3D design layout of fleur-de-lis has some kind of electrical property to disperse energy. Yeah, look, this is all from ancient Judah. These are the benches they moved to the cemeteries. Look, Judah Lion, Judah Lion. A lion is a symbol for the tribe of Judah, the houses of David. Even this, look how this is all mounded up. Look at this, how it's all pushed up to it. Probably hiding the cornerstone of this building buried right here. That's why this is all pushed up. Like, look, it's this almost the same foundation. Veneer stone right here for the foundation. See it right here? Matches right here. And it has red brick up above it, right? Foundation, red brick up above it.
1,000 women were not enough to satisfy his desires was King Solomon. Throughout his life, he amassed 700 wives and 300 concubines, a number that reflected not only his power and wealth, but also his insatiable search for fulfillment. Each of these women represented not just love or desire, but a strategic piece in his empire, an extension of his dominion. But despite his vast harem, Solomon soon discovered that affection and promises of love were not enough to fill the emptiness within. The fleeting pleasure of being surrounded by beautiful, desirable women eventually became hollow and short-lived. Though he had everything a man could want, the king did not find the peace he so desperately sought. In his final years, Solomon turned to deep reflection. Wisdom revealed to him that pleasure and love alone are not enough to give life true meaning.
Jerusalem. Let's turn to the Book of Mormon, the record of the Israelites. Where was this American Jerusalem? Let's turn to the Book of Mormon, the record of the Israelites on this continent. In First Nephi, Lehi flees a wicked Jerusalem. The scripture is very specific about their initial path. It says in First Nephi 2:5, he came down by the borders near the shore of the Red Sea. For centuries, we've been conditioned to picture that in the Middle East. But let's use our map decoded by the master key, the seal portion of the Book of Mormon. Where was this American Jerusalem? The clues point to the land now called Utah, the ancient kingdom of Judah, with its Great Salt Lake, the true Dead Sea. If Lehi fled from this region, this Jerusalem, and traveled south down the Colorado River Basin, he would come down by the borders near the shore of the Red Sea, the Gulf of California. The geography matches the scripture perfectly when you use the right map. And the scripture then says they traveled nearly a south-southeast direction along its borders before building a ship and launching into the great waters. If you sail from the west coast of Mexico, you're caught by the powerful North Pacific Gyre and the California Current, natural oceanic highways that propel any vessel westward. They guide you directly into the heart of Polynesia. They guide you to Hawaii.
So America is the promised land. I showed on my last TikTok how the Knights Templar and the Order of Solomon came to America and settled in Manhattan, and they built fortified cities and all the star forts along the water systems. The King's Highway was along the Hudson River right there. I showed Peter's portico in Troy, New York, and Albany. So where would Titus have been? The Roman emperor who conquered Jerusalem, he would have had to been in this area right after Jesus' crucifixion, the same area. Right? I showed Jesus' crucifixion right outside the city in Fort Golgotha in Long Island. I showed the Judah temples in New York City and Albany, New York. So where would a Titus conquer the Roman emperor who invaded Jerusalem in 70 AD if America is the Holy Land? To change the map, we're going to go a little bit further in the biblical timeline, right? So I overlaid the map where Rome took over Jerusalem in 70 AD. Right here in Fort Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified, there's a marker. Right in Fort Golgotha, there's a gravestone. Titus, daughter of Ithriel and Temperance Titus, who died on the first. Look how first and Ithriel is spelled. Right? There's a couple other words right here, like endless right here. You got salvation with an F, first with an F, and Ithriel with an F. That's Israel in the first, and daughter of Israel, because America is Israel. This isn't a gravestone. This is an actual marker that they just edited the date where it says May 1807. They added the 1 and the 7 on each side. That's why the 7 doesn't match, and that 1 is an I. This is another marker at Fort Golgotha. It says right on the bottom, remove not this old landmark, okay? This is a permanent landmark. It says Fort Golgotha was occupied by British troops, which would have been the Roman Empire around 43 AD to 1410 AD. They came and conquered America around 70 AD to 80 AD. So below me, this is the Arch of Titus that was built in Rome for when he conquers, right? Showing that that he spoiled Jerusalem, he destroyed it. This was during the Jewish rebellion in Judea. I want you to notice how Senate is spelt right there. It has a V at the end, right? It's Roman. Then you got the Washington Square Arch right here. This is the Arch of Titus, Washington Square. This is a Masonic square. Washington was a Freemason. Same arch is also over in Brooklyn, right? The Grand Army Plaza, right? Who do you think took over the Roman army? Right, here's the third one down in the city in Manhattan. We'll take a look back at this map right here. That was down in Long Island and down in New York City. After Titus conquered Jerusalem, Hadrian started building temples around 130 AD. He built capital buildings, Aelia Capitolina, the temples of Jupiter. Right here, it was destruction by Titus, 70 AD. 60 years later, Emperor Hadrian decided to rebuild the city, renaming it Capitolina and dedicating it to Jupiter. All right, so this is the Temple of Jupiter in Lebanon, overseas. You can see that Hadrian right here is depicted on a horse with all these pillar columns. And this is him in the New York State Capitol depicted on a horse right here. You see right there, they added an S right here and put Herod, and that's supposed to be Hadrian. They added this name right here and adjusted the dates. The Capitol building in the back right here, those are the arches of Titus built into the architecture right here because they took over and built the Capitol buildings in Albany, New York, where Asher was appointed and ruled in Judah. This is the Albany courthouse right here. You can see that that's the Temple of Jupiter. Here's a picture a little bit further back. This is a temple that he built. That building behind it on the left is the Albany's courthouse. This is the capital, Albany. Look how court and house is spelled in county, right? Those are V's instead of U's. Just like the Arch of Titus that was built in Rome for Titus. Then you got the New York State's World Fair that has Italia built on it because this is all Roman concrete and was built by the Romans. Some people think that these were millennial reign buildings. I never thought I'd have to disprove the millennial reign. But the concrete that they use to build this contains lime, volcanic ash, and calcium. The calcium they use to build this concrete contains human bones. They burn human bones on fire and then crush it into an ash and a powder and mix it into the concrete. That's why it's self-healing concrete, is because it contains DNA. Do you think Jesus or any one of the saints would have built or constructed any of these temples with the remains of human bones? These were built by the Romans when they conquered America. That's why you can't find anything on America before 1000 AD. They just tell you this place was full of Native Americans. Right here, Chicago's World Fair. This is all Roman, from the Roman Empire, the Britain Roman Empire, and Titus and Hadrian conquering the United States of America. They also built the State Education Building in Albany, New York. All right, this was all built by Freemasons. I'll show you the artwork on the inside. All right, so there's this Roman lady right here on the inside of this building, depicted with a compass designed on a Corinthian pillar, used in masonry and Freemasonry for geometry. Everybody wants the secrets to Freemasonry. Like, I'm not the great-great-grandson of the Grandmaster. Everyone wants to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to these buildings. I want you to read this right here. Temple Commandery 2, a member of D. Witten Council, Knight Masons. Okay, on the other side it says he was a 33rd degree. Now, this is on Lodge Street in Albany, right around the corner from that Capitol building and them courthouses. This is Temple 2 in Albany. My grandfather ran this temple. And I'm telling you right now, it was built by Solomon and taken over by the Romans, which is why you have this fake cornerstone right here that was originally 80 AD. They added a 1 and a 5 on the other side, and they carved that 0 into a 9. I showed this in my other videos. A lot of people kept saying that this was like 605 or a bunch of other dates. This is 80 AD. They put these triangles on each side of these numbers and the month, so you can't re-edit the date. Now, to go even further, okay, this is Norman Gowd. He was a member of the Republican House of Representatives from New York State. He is depicted next to my grandfather when he retired and turned the command over to him in that temple, okay, to the New York State Republican representative. This is a historical document. You can see right at the bottom, historical images. This is 1964 press photo when they retired. Knights Masons, right? He was a Knights Templar. Like I told you, they all came from overseas to America. They brought not only the Christian pilgrims, but the 12 tribes of Israel.
I found today's rabbit hole to be really exciting. I mean, if you watch my channel, you know that I'm a firm God believer, that Jesus is God. And just to watch that is amazing to think that I'm from upstate New York, if you didn't know, that America, New York, is the land of Egypt, the land of Israel, where Jerusalem is, where Judah is. It's really amazing. And it's also crazy when you think about how much they hide and how much they lie about civilizations past and where we come from and all these different things. Imagine Jesus was crucified in upstate New York, where Solomon built all these star fort cities and castles, and it's really quite something. And also, watching some of that made me rethink like Tartaria. Like I'm a firm believer in that, or I was. I'm wearing a shirt right now that says it. But what if that's something just to throw us off the whole Tartarian thing? They're not mentioned in the Bible. Maybe all these magnificent buildings and castles and temples and the free energy, maybe it comes from the people of God, from people mentioned in the Bible, like David or any of these people, Solomon. Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed today's videos. Don't forget to hit that like button, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.